G'day and welcome back to the channel, Ginger Ninja's Movie Reviews. I am the Ginger Ninja and these are my movie reviews. But not just any movie reviews, no. It's August and all August I've been trying to get this off the ground, but we're finally here. Argento August, we are looking at some of Dario Argento's finest films. Now, we're kicking it off with Phenomena from 1985, which is an absolute classic from my childhood. I remember watching this on VHS and I'll get more into that later, but this one here is my Arrow edition. It's a great little transfer. Obviously they do the 2K restorations and whatnot. It looks phenomenal, like it really does. Definitely recommend checking it, and just in case you're wondering, that is a little card for another great film, Weird Science, another one I grew up on. But we're not here to talk about Weird Science, we are here to discuss the movie Phenomena, also known as Creepers. Now this film came out in 1985, and before we get into that, I do want to say a big thank you to all my new and existing subscribers. I know it's been a bit of a hectic month, especially for me, like there's things been going on, so it hasn't been as much out as I would have liked, but we are here and we're getting into these phenomenal films from Dario Argento, so let's get into it. Directed by none other than Dario Argento, the film stars Jennifer Connelly, Donaldpleasence, darianicolodi, Fiore Argento, and Patrickbauchau. Now, when I saw that name as I was like looking into this and watching it, I'm like, I know that name, and I saw him in heaps of stuff in the 90s. Like he was in The Pretender, Kindred, The Embrace, like so many TV shows, and then twigging that he was in this, I'm like, I couldn't believe it. So anyway, the plot: a young girl who has the amazing ability to communicate with insects is transferred to an exclusive Swiss boarding school where her unusual capability might help solve a string of murders. So I had not seen this in a very long time. Like I mentioned, I saw this on VHS in the late 80s, early 90s. I watched it a few times. I really enjoyed it. So I was really looking forward to revisiting this one. And I guess the biggest question thinking about it, does it stand up after so long? Well, it's directed by Dario Argento, the maestro of giallo. And he is known for a very visually arresting style and often surreal narratives. And Phenomena, it straddles the line between horror and the supernatural, blending elements of murder mystery with bizarre, fantastical occurrences. The movie is quite renowned for its gothic atmosphere and its dreamlike sequences and its very distinctive soundtrack, which features music from Goblin, Dario Argento's frequent collaborator with soundtracks, Iron Maiden, and Motorhead. Film directed by Argento, starring Donaldpleasence and Jennifer Connelly, with a rocking soundtrack. What's not to like? Okay, so let's kick it off with the cast, and we got to start with Donaldpleasence. Like, he just brings gravitas to the role. He has a warmth to the role, and though his character is somewhat underutilized, he is playing a wheelchair-bound entomologist. He plays it with a quiet intensity that contrasts nicely to the more fantastical elements of the story. Jennifer Connelly, who you'll see popping around in the back there, in one of her earliest roles, delivers a performance that is both vulnerable and intense, and she carries a lot of the film's emotional weight, and her ability to convey this vulnerability and strength makes her a very sympathetic protagonist. I mentioned the film's dreamlike sequences, and there's one in there where it's so surreal, like where she's talking to the bugs, but all the school people, like the fellow students at the boarding schools, and she's talking to the bugs and the wind's blowing. It's stunning, and she plays it amazingly. The supporting cast, which include Darianicolodi as the enigmatic Frau Bruckner and patrickbauchau as Geiger, they add to the film's off-kilter charm. Though I will say that these two characters are mostly underdeveloped, particularly Frau Bruckner, because there is a huge backstory there. And I felt like we just didn't delve into it. And this makes them kind of feel like mere plot points, cannon fodder, if you will, to the story's, the whole film's more gruesome moments. Now onto the directing and the writing, and get comfy because this is the meat and veg of the movie. The idea of a protagonist who communicates with insects it's somewhat original, and it adds a unique layer to the horror. The way this ability is woven into the narrative is both imaginative and disturbing, particularly in scenes where Jennifer uses her power to track down the killer. She's holding a flame, like everyone, like there's this viciousness about her almost, where she not attacks but verbally attacks. Now that could be, the fact that she's a teenager, they do that, but it's just like she's so in tune with the insects. And that's one thing this movie does really well. It blends these supernatural elements with a murder mystery, and it makes for a very unusual and memorable narrative. Now, that being said, the blending of these elements, supernatural with a murder mystery, can feel quite jarring. The film does struggle with a balance of multiple genres, and that leads to some issues with the pacing overall. Like, the pacing does feel a little uneven, with certain scenes just dragging on unnecessarily. And then there are others that feel rushed, and they disrupt the overall flow of the film. I mentioned this with Frau Bruckner. There is a story there to be told, and we get a glimpse of it between a conversation near the end of the film between Geiger and Frau Bruckner. It's touched on, but it's hinted at. There's a lot more there to be told. And that really, there's just more there. And look, this whole issue with the pacing can make the film feel disjointed. And a lot of viewers may find that difficult to maintain their suspension of disbelief. But it's someone who can communicate with insects, so what do you expect? But as the story enters its final act, it veers into increasingly outlandish territory, which is where the film escalates into a cinematic blend of horror and fantasy, and even certain elements of a fairy tale. And that is where a non-fan based audience may find it difficult to jump into. Now, while we, as fans of Argento, appreciate Argento's willingness to push boundaries and embrace the absurd, others might find this climax to be somewhat convoluted and lacking in coherence. But it is what it is. Argento's signature flair is on full display in this film. His earlier films, oh yeah, and we'll get to them another day, but the use of vibrant colours and stark contrast and imaginative camera angles create a disorienting, nightmarish atmosphere, and it keeps you on edge. The Swiss countryside, which you do see in the background here occasionally, it's got these lush forests and these imposing mountains in the background. It's beautiful, it's eerie, it perfectly complements the film's unsettling tone. Now, I mentioned the music before, a rocking soundtrack, and I guess another word for it is an eclectic soundtrack. It is rather a big highlight to this film. Goblin's haunting compositions, it sets the tone for many of the more intense set pieces, while the unexpected inclusion of heavy metal tracks from Iron Maiden, Motorhead and the like adds an element of chaotic energy to the mix, which, look, it's both good and bad. The music is an integral part to Phenomena's identity, and it enhances a surreal and otherworldly atmosphere. And look, it's what Argento's known for, his soundtracks, his style, but this juxtaposition of music styles can be, again, jarring. At times the music enhances the film's atmosphere. Others, it feels out of place and it pulls you out of the narrative, even though the songs are really good. And now on to the effects. And look, while the film is notable for its practical effects, some of the gore and creature effects have not aged well. This is particularly true in the film's climax, which, while visually striking, as with the rest of the film, has just not stood the test of time. The pit, with the decomposing bodies, the skeletons, the just gross, muddy chunkiness of the water, looks good. But the introduction of the creature, the child creature, the mutated kid, we're not given enough history there. And that goes back to the writing and what I mentioned about Frau Bruckner and the history there. It's not, we don't have enough to go on to actually get a reaction to now. When we see it, it looks very fake, is the only way I can say it. We're not given a reason as to why this child looks like it does. Had we had more of a story behind it, maybe we would have a different reaction, but it is what it is. And look, overall, the film still has its great blood. You know, it's that bright red blood, the blood that looks too red almost. We still have that. We still have good, solid effects throughout. The bugs look a bit fake. They kind of look like they're superimposed over something. But yeah, it's 1985. You got to work with what you got. Now on to rewatchability. And look, this is one that I added to my collection, having not watched it for such a long time. And like I said, late 80s was probably the last time I watched it, maybe early 90s. So quite some time. But I enjoyed it back then. And to be honest, I still do. I'm just looking at it through a different lens now. And will I rewatch this? Yeah, I will. Maybe not for a while though, but I will definitely go back and rewatch this one. So, final verdict. And look, Phenomena is a film that exemplifies Dario Argento's distinctive style, with its mesmerizing visuals, its eerie atmosphere, and a very unusual narrative. However, it's also a very deeply flawed movie with pacing issues, dated effects, and a story that can be sometimes hard to follow. For fans of Argento, or even the giallo genre, Phenomena is a fascinating, if uneven, experience that showcases both the director's strengths and weaknesses. For others, it may prove to be a perplexing, albeit visually captivating, journey into the bizarre. Overall, for a score, this gets an 8 out of 10. There you have it. That is my review of Phenomena. Have you seen this film? Let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of this one. And yes, it does have its issues. I know it is what it is. I still have a certain place in my dark heart for it. I really enjoy it. And yeah, it is one of my is it my favorite Argento film? I haven't seen all of them, but it is pretty close. I really just enjoy the cast, the story, everything about this. It's just a really fun ride. But anyway, let me know what you thought of this film down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please do hit that thumbs up button. And if you've made it through my ramblings about this film, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you're notified every time I do release a new review. Like I mentioned, this is Argento August and we're almost at the end of August, so, you know, not a lot of time left in the month, but I will be getting a few more out. So keep an eye out for them. But then we'll be heading into September. And yes, Trashy Tuesday will be back in September, but we'll also be kicking off a new franchise Friday. I'm only doing this for September because October is Halloween. It's the 31 days of Halloween, so I've got that to look forward to. But for September, Franchise Friday, we're looking at Wishmaster. So I put a poll up on my community page and you guys voted, so Wishmaster it is. Yeah, looking forward to that. Anyway, look, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. Bye. So, final verdict, and Phenomena is a film that exemplifies Dario Argento.